tomatoes, fresh tomatoes, garlic, olive oil, salt, a little bit of red bell pepper, and some other Italian seasonings and spices and some fresh herbs. So the reason why we're using sun-dried tomatoes is because normally you end up having, when you're making a cooked pasta sauce, you want kind of a thick, hearty type of sauce. And in order to recreate the tomato paste, we use the sun-dried tomatoes, and they allow that thicker, more hearty flavor to be there. Yes, these sun-dried tomatoes are soaked. If you get them in, we buy them in bulk actually, and they come dried. And then you just soak them until they're pretty soft. And here's the dried ones, and they expand a little bit and they soften up. And the reason why we soak them is so that they become easier to blend. For how long? For warm water. Okay. You can soak them for maybe about 30 minutes to 1 hour, just depending on how tough the sun-dried tomatoes are. So the sun-dried tomatoes we're going to be using to make the paste, and then we're going to be adding in all our herbs and our fresh foods. So I've got a bowl here of sun-dried tomatoes, and I'm going to go ahead and put them in our food processor. So I've got about 15 or 20 sun-dried tomatoes that we're going to add to our food processor. And then we're also going to add some of our fresh tomatoes. But I like my tomato sauce pretty chunky, and so I don't put all of the tomato in up front. I add a little bit as we go so that it doesn't become just a watery mess. And if you want your tomato sauce to be like more dry or more thick, you can take the seeds, you can de-seed your tomatoes, and that'll keep it drier and won't leak through in your crust and stuff like that. And since we have our crust prepared, we might do that. There's a couple ways that you can de-seed your tomato. You can use a tomato shark, which has little teeth on it, or you can just use a spoon and scoop it out. How's the view of the cutting board? Can you see that pretty good? Alright. This is a better view, I think, than what we had before. These actually are not that juicy of tomatoes, so we could probably leave we can actually probably throw that in there just to add the liquid part to it. And I'm just going to spread a little bit of the tomato around the blade. And since these seeds are not that bad, I'm just going to cut it and leave them on there. So we're just going to put the tomato around our blade, and we'll pulse chop this together just to get it going before we add all the spices. You guys help me out here. Okay, so as you can see, it's pretty chunky right now. So we're going to add a little bit of red bell pepper. Pass that around. Okay, so we're going to pull it up. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is add some of the spices and seasonings. I like oregano and a little bit of garlic. garlic powder. Actually, let's use fresh garlic today. Some black pepper. And what else we're going to put in? A little bit of spice is always good, so I'm going to add some cayenne. And a little bit of onion powder. I'm just going to have these out because, you know, when you taste it, you add it on here. And I've got some fresh basil. Okay, so and I always smash my garlic. If you have a garlic press, you could use that, but it's going to grind it up so well, so you could just throw it in. I'm going to add a little bit more to our mix. And then we're going to add a little bit of olive oil. And this is just, let's put a little bit in top there. Yeah, it's cold pressed. Cold pressed, we want organic. Because oils tend to go rancid if they're not cold pressed, and actually they tend to go rancid anyway if you don't keep them properly stored. So a little bit of black pepper. We'll add a pinch of cayenne. And we'll process that. I'm going to chop up some of the fresh basil. So I've got some beautiful basil here. Oh wow, this smells awesome. Tell our guests what properly stored is for oils. Well, that would mean you don't want to keep them in a very hot environment, and it's better if they're in a darker container. So keeping them cool or refrigerated tends to be best. Not all oils you have to refrigerate, but like flaxseed oil you definitely have to refrigerate. Coconut oil you can get away with. Glass, yes, glass would be better than plastic, just because of the leaching factors. So I'm just going to lightly chop the basil so I can spread it around the blade fairly evenly. And I don't usually keep a lot of the stem, although I do save the stems on all my herbs and I put them in juice because they make really good juice. Alright, so now that we've got all our spices and seasonings in, we're going to go ahead and process this a little more. This is going to be kind of a chunky marinara. Oh, and we're missing one thing, salt. That's right. So I'm going to add a little pinch of salt here. Maybe a pinch and a half. And then you just process it as long as you want for the consistency that you're looking for, chunky or smooth or okay. And then you want to take your spatula and scrape down the sides so that you get everything evenly processed. Sea salt. Yes, this is actually a Himalayan pink salt that we're using. It's an unprocessed, unrefined salt. There's different kinds of salt that are also really good, like Celtic sea salt. There's also Hawaiian salt. For pizza, thicker is best and not too thin so it doesn't make your crust too soggy. True. So I like it a little bit chunkier. And it's fairly thin. I'm just going to go ahead and give it one more little pull down. And then we'll taste it here.